All right, Steve, we're going to kick off with you in regards to your thoughts because so much has happened in regards to activity, rhetoric. I certainly want to give credit and credence and validity to the big push that's being put on by parents, most of all, players, the fan bases out there, and to a certain extent, the coaches, of course, in certain areas to get Big Ten football back on the field in 2020, but nothing's been accomplished in a concrete form to let us know that the league office is in any way seriously considering reversing its decision. Where do you think this thing stands?
Well, I think this morning we're seeing a lot of people talking about the potential that they may try and start playing football in November around Thanksgiving time in the Big Ten, and not sure really what you gain by doing that. Does that still make you eligible for the playoff in January? I don't know. Probably more questions than there are answers right now. The three of us, Tony, Kevin, and myself, were all in Chicago a week ago today. I know we taped the last show on Wednesday. So since that last show 9 days ago, we were all in Chicago attending the rally for Big Ten parents. There were about 30 parents there, about half of them aligned with Ohio State, and led obviously by Mr. Wade, Shaun Wade's dad, Randy Wade. And that was a nice event, I thought. They're trying to gain some audience with the Big Ten to get some answers as to why it was canceled for the fall season. I know in Kevin Warren's terms it's postponed, but if you're not playing in September, October, November, you've canceled the traditional season basically. And this pie in the sky hope that they might play in January, February, March, whatever that might be, to me seems somewhat ridiculous. But if that's what they're going to do, I don't see a lot of traction being made with the Big Ten to get them to reverse their decision. They came out, I think, a week ago Wednesday with the announcement that the decision was final, would not be revisited, and have really seen nothing from the Big Ten in the interim to indicate anything otherwise. It's very unfortunate, obviously, and I think everybody knows where we all stand, is that we want a fall season to cover a fall season just as much as the fans want a fall season to watch the fall season. But it doesn't seem like that's going to happen. It's very unfortunate. Dave Biddle from our staff said this could be considered one of the biggest blunders in the history of sports if the Big Ten doesn't play this season and have a ready-made national championship contender like Ohio State and a Heisman Trophy candidate like Justin Fields unable to play. So I think that, again, there's been some traction today about maybe moving it up from January to November. But I think Kevin's friend Nicole Arbach came out on Twitter a little while ago and said that from a Big Ten level, that's never been discussed. And we had intelligence that Ryan Day maybe did a Zoom call yesterday with some parents and said that the plan was still hopeful for January with no mention of November. So not sure where November came from. And last thing I'll say is Nebraska, 8 players at Nebraska have filed a lawsuit in a local court there. I'm not sure what the ramification of that's going to be. They filed a suit against the Big Ten looking for documents and transparency on what the decision was. I don't know if anything's ever been ruled on there. If the judge just took it under advisement, we'll come back with the ruling on if the Big Ten needs to provide anything else in terms of why the decision was made. Not sure if students for athletes from other schools can join that lawsuit since they're not Nebraskaites and may not be considered to have standing in the state of Nebraska. This could be something along the federal lines that if athletes from all the schools banded together, maybe they could force the Big Ten's hand to coming to the bargaining table to talk about things. But again, just a terrible, terrible situation brought about by really poor leadership. And, that's my take, and I'm sticking to it. So I'm interested to see what Tony and Kevin have thought about the events of the last 7 to 9 days on their part.
You need to. All right,
go ahead, Kevin.
All right, I was going to say I'll jump in. The November date has been thrown around by a couple of outlets, the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel, Tom Dienhart from the Purdue rival site, and other places. So there is some validity to November, in my opinion, and I really am operating under the opinion that that might be the worst case scenario in terms of, I think that if we're going to see a season, it is going to be November versus January, just based on people I've spoken to. A lot of the hubbub today kind of came out of a coach's call, and usually the coach's calls are on Thursdays, and I've been told by some well-placed sources that the last two have been chaotic, to say the least. Coaches are angry. The Big Ten has been represented on the call, but not necessarily by the head guy. A lot of ducking, a lot of this, that, and the other. It certainly feels like the reports that are coming out now saying, well, this was a president's and chancellor's decision. I think that, that's being placed in the media by the Big Ten right now. I do think that there is a lot of traction toward accelerating this. My concern, my question really is, and I understand that we're not 6 weeks away from October 3rd, I guess, which is, October 3rd is when you really would have to start the season to have a chance to sync up your schedule with all of the other conferences and be able to get in under the wire for a December 20th college football playoff final poll and be able to get into there. But again, I'm not really sure what we are gaining right now by saying, well, let's just start at Thanksgiving versus October 3rd. The heart ailment reports have largely been debunked. We could sit there and say that maybe work toward a vaccine will be further along in late November versus earlier October. But I really think that this is just a case of the Big Ten trying to have its cake and eat it too, maybe putting out some trial balloons right now. And obviously the red meat eating fan base of the Big Ten is all about let's play as soon as freaking possible. And, I think that I don't think we're going to have to wait until early January to see football. I think that the worst case scenario is going to be that Thanksgiving, but in some ways that's going to be worse because we're going to see them get so close to the finish line, but still not be able to get to the point of where we're able to see 4 conferences or 5 conferences, if anybody really gives a crap about the Big 12 or the Pac-12, to be able to sync together and be able to have a sort of regular season with a regular postseason. So, a lot of frustrations there. And everybody, I suggest to keep following Tom Mars on Twitter, the attorney who up with so many of the NC2A appeals. He has issued Freedom of Information requests to 13 of the 14 member schools, and it could be really interesting if some of that information gets out there.
The thing with the we just saw a little note come out from Nicole Auerbach today saying that a reminder that it's the Big Ten presidents who postponed the season. And I guess you probably could have put in there, it's the Big Ten presidents. It wasn't Kevin Warren. And this is per a source. And I'm just reading it like, is this per Kevin Warren saying, hey, let everybody know it's the presidents that postponed this. And then when, the Big Ten miraculously comes back in, say, October or November, he can maybe put forth that, I got us football back, everybody. But like Kevin said, if you are, say, just a few weeks too late to be part of the playoffs, that's all people are going to think about is you could have gotten on the field a month earlier and you could have been a part of this. It would be less damaging to start in January and just be completely different from the ongoing season. To be playing your regular season concurrently with the SEC and the ACC and the Pac-12 and not be part of the playoffs would just be a slap in the face to all of the Big Ten fans, all of the Ohio State fans, the Pac-12 fans, not necessarily Pac-12 fans, the people who care and who have a shot at the playoffs. So obviously we wouldn't be talking about the Pac-12. But to it would just be such a tease, and you wouldn't be able to take part in it. And I appreciate the Big Ten possibly going back on their incorrect stance, or trying to have football here, and we should applaud them for that. And it feels like we're just being overly critical if we then criticize the decision. But this decision, if you choose to come back just at a later date, just like a month after everybody else starts, why? What is the rationale there? Knowing that we still haven't gotten actual rationale from Kevin Warren and the Big Ten. That letter that he put out, you can go line by line and disprove and dispute every single factor that he put in there. Like, one of the factors is we were worried we might run out of tests, and so we canceled August 11th. Cancel the season when you run out of tests, not while you've got plenty. And it's not like, now I know you guys are aware of like supply and demand. Like, people want tests now, so they're not just going to not make tests anymore. Like, there's not going to be like, hey, you know what? People don't want tests anymore, so we're just not going to make them. No, they're going to continue to make more and more. Gets cheaper, gets easier, gets quicker, as we've seen in the past week with this new $5 spit test. But you cancel for all of these different reasons in August 11th, when the entire time we've been saying there's no need. And now here we are, a couple of weeks later, and it's like, you see, and this is what we're talking about, when things look more and more like college football is going to happen, and everybody is moving full steam ahead, even with teams with positive outbreaks, and entire positions being wiped out, according to like Lincoln Riley and other places. And yet they're moving forward, and the conferences are moving forward. But the thought of, what if we run out of tests, or, contact tracing is so hard, let's just cancel. That was the Big Ten's decision. This just seems too hard after they spent all of this time in creating this incredible schedule, and then they shut it all down. So I'm thinking all of these different dates, yeah, the Big Ten is definitely trying to figure something out, and then people keep running with each one. And it's like, well, these are all just models at this point, and we'll see what happens. But to start the season outside of that, like October, whatever time frame where you can still get into the playoffs, would just be the cherry on the Sunday of just such an asinine fall for the Big Ten.
Yes, to say we're going to play in the spring, none of us are for that. 99% of the fan bases are not for that, but at least it's a separation to say, we, for whatever reason, whether you believe us or not, whether you think it's valid or not, have decided that we can't play a fall season. We're playing a separate season, and give it whatever validity you give it. But to tantalize and to tease, to put it, or I will say torture the fan bases by saying, okay, while you're watching Alabama, Auburn, and you're watching Clemson, North Carolina, and all these relevant games that are concluding toward a championship with these other three conferences, we're starting our season, and you're going to see week 1, Ohio State, Illinois on Thanksgiving weekend, but don't connect the two, because we're not going to be able to compete with them, because we're going to be in game 5 when they're playing the college football play. I just think that is beyond asinine. I'm looking at a calendar right now, and of course I've not completely worked this out, but just looking at the dates, I'm looking at Saturday, October 24th, and what you would be able to accomplish there is play 5 games, take a bye week, and obviously you don't necessarily need to regiment it where you're taking an entire week off for the entire league, but basically you're fitting 10 games in 11 weeks. And then you forget the Big Ten championship game. Team with the best record wins whatever your tiebreaker needs to be. And you take a week off, and then you're ready to compete in the college football playoff. If you start on October 24th,